Praise the Lord. Hello, you're welcome to the End Time Truth Television. How are you doing today? God bless you. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're listening to me from. I greet you in the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. The video that we are about to watch, I must confess to you that I have not actually watched the video. I only saw it and watched like maybe the first 3 to 5 minutes of it, and then I decided to watch it along with you so that it will be like we are discussing the video. So I'd like you to follow as we go along, just like the title says. You know, the experience that the brother in this video had, I've actually asked that question. I've asked that question, and the answers I've gotten had always been antagonistic answers, as if, I am God's personal advisor. Now, so we're going to listen to him, and from his childhood until the incident that happened. I only listened to him when he talked about when he was 7 years old, his grandmother, and that's, what have you. That was where I stopped. So let us go in together, and I want to plead with you to please kindly help to spread the gospel. Help me as you get in touch with the videos and you watch the videos, and maybe you think it is good. As you're commenting and liking or disliking, go ahead and share. Thank you very much. God bless you. Let us move into the video now after this intro. Don't go away. You are welcome to the End Time Truth Television, the channel for the lovers of truth, for the truth of the end time. So if you are a lover of truth, give us a subscription and God bless you. Shalom.
Hi, welcome to Touching the Afterlife. Our guest today is Jason. Jason was meeting a girl one night in a hotel room for a night of fornication when suddenly he was suffering an apparent heart attack. He was being taken down to hell when a supernatural experience happened and God showed up. You don't want to miss this today. So welcome with me, Jason. Take us through what happened with your life and what led up to that night at the hotel.
When I was 7 years old, me and my grandmother used to watch the biblical stories every Christmas, Jesus of Nazareth and the Ten Commandments. I was always fascinated about Jesus. I would ask her, why God don't do those things now today, like, talk to people and people see angels. And she would always tell me, ask them for yourself. As a 7-year-old kid, I would go to my bedroom and I would ask God to let me know if I'm going to heaven by making 2 taps for no and 1 tap for yeah in the night. And I would just listen. I would fall asleep eventually, but I would always listen for either that 1 tap or 2 taps, but I never got, any taps. So, but growing up as a little kid, I was always fascinated by Jesus. I was intrigued by him. And my grandmother, she really wasn't church going, but I was a type of kid that was always curious about church at that age, and I was just interested. And so I went to the church with my neighbor one time, and I remember hearing the pastor talk about going to heaven, and it sounded good, and I was like, I want to go. So he asked people that want to come up, give their life to the Lord, and I was that kid that went up and gave my life to the Lord at that moment. I wasn't always a good kid. I was a little knucklehead, always getting into trouble and being at odds with my uncle, because it was my father kind of brought me to my grandmother's house and dropped me off because, he really couldn't take care of a kid. And he thought the best thing to do was to take me to, Big Mom's house. He did, and he dropped me off, and grandmother became something like my best friend, and we was inseparable. At the age of 11, my uncle had cooked some pizza. It was 1 slice left, and he told me I could have it. I went and got the pizza, and she told me, no, it's late. You need to go to bed. So I put the pizza down. I went upstairs. I'm stomping up the stairs, and she told me to come back. Came back down the steps. She gave me a hug and a kiss, told me she loved me, and gave me the slice of pizza. I went back upstairs happy, went in my room, sat in my room, ate the pizza. Just like out of nowhere, I just started crying. I was 11 years old. Well, let me go back a little bit. Prior to that night, my grandmother, she had four kids, my father, my uncle. No, I'm sorry, 5 kids. My father, my uncle, my 3 aunts. She confided in me one night and told me that the doctor told her she didn't have long to live. And we both were like on the back porch crying. I'm telling her, don't worry, Grandma, you're going to live forever. I'm going to pray for you. And then, back to that moment where she gave me the pizza. She gave me the pizza, and I went to my room and I just bust out crying. And, I was praying to God, like crying my heart out, asking him to let her live forever. And she would normally wake me up at 7 a.m. to go to school. So, I kind of woke up on my own that morning, and I went in the room and I, peeked in there and saw that she was still asleep. So I was like, oh, close the door back, because it's grandma's responsibility to wake me up. I'm gonna go back to bed. So I went back and laid back down. 2 hours later, 9 o'clock rolled by, and I thought, it's 9 o'clock. I'm not going to school. Me and grandma chilling for the day. So I went back in the room, opened the door. She was in the same position that I saw her in the first time. And so I thought that was strange. So I walked in there and I was like, Grandma. I walked around the bed. When I got to the other side and I saw her face, she was pale, and the cold that was in her eyes looked like it was connected to the pillow. She had the AC on, and I was trying to wake her up. And I was like, Grandma, wake up, wake up. She had passed away. I had found her in the bed. She had passed away. And I fell back to the wall, and I just fell down. I was crying. And I went downstairs and I called my aunt Marlene, and I was telling her that something's wrong with Grandma. She won't wake up. So, the police came and everybody came over, and my cousin, was trying to console me. And that was the moment I said out loud, hate God. The night before, when I prayed for my grandmother to live forever, he took her. So I told my cousin, I said, I hate God. I hate him. Crying my heart out, because my grandmother was my best friend back then. So I guess fast forward a little bit, me and my uncle was kind of at odds at each other, being in the house, in the same house, my grandmother was in, and it was just me and my uncle, and I would always wear his clothes, and he would get mad at me, and it was challenging, living with my uncle, but he's the one that kind of made me the tough guy that I was when I was in the streets. So fast forward a little bit more, it was like a fork in the road, and it's like these moments in life, you can see these pivotal moments where it's like a fork in the road, and the fork in the road was this particular day. I lost my girlfriend, my job, and my uncle put me out all in one day. And I was like, this is crazy. What is going on? So I had $500 to my name. I think I was like 19 years old. I had $500 to my name. And, I used to hustle on the streets, but I was like a part-time hustler. I didn't hustle for real. Like the guys that were out there, they were hustlers. And I was a part-time hustler. But when I had that pivotal moment, I had a choice to choose either to use this money to look for another job, catch the bus to find another job, or I can choose the latter, go on the streets and try to flip it as many times as I could. I chose to try to flip it. So my aunt Darling, she told me I can come over and stay with her for a little bit. I was kind of bouncing back and forth from my aunt. I was out there hustling. It was, winter rolled around, and the guys on the streets saw that I was still out there. It was like, wow, Rink's still out here. You full time now? And I was like, yeah, full time.
Jason, you're saying at 19 years old, that was that pivotal moment for you, and you chose the route to go downhill into the dark side.
Right. And it was like an unstoppable boulder going downwards. And I was hungry for money, and my mindset was, how else can I get money if I don't have any? So I broke into my uncle's house. I stole his guns, and I was pretty much a vicious monster on the streets. And I was bad, but I had the type of heart that if you was my friend or family member, that I would help you out in any way you needed. And the other heart was, I wasn't afraid to do anything. I was out there, hustling and robbing and just bad. It was progression of badness. I would get locked up for like the pettiest things, like trespassing on apartment property. I get locked up for something like that. It would be small things that I would get locked up for, but never for the big things that I was doing. I'm on the streets. It was one particular night. I think that one of those pivotal moments that I was supposed to be taking my girlfriend to the movies. And, at the end of the night, when all the fellas finished hustling, it was like we all would get together and gamble, shoot dice. And that was like the bonus money, at the end of the night, shoot dice, and that'd be the bonus money, extra money you make. And I lost all my money that I hustled for that day. So I knew another guy from a different neighborhood that somebody told me about, and I kind of went there and did some things, and I was kind of running from the police and running from them, and I was in the woods, and the helicopters came, and it was like 10 cop cars everywhere looking for me, and I'm in the woods, and I'm like, this is it. I'm about to be on the news, and I'm going to jail forever. So I tripped over a log, and I'm crawling through the woods. I'm like, this is it. I'm done. The log that I tripped over, I took and rolled it over top of my body, and it covered my entire body perfectly. And I heard the helicopters coming, and the helicopters shined the light over top of the log that I was under. And the area of the log that I was under was lit up like daylight. You could feel the heat. I felt the heat from the helicopter light. I was under the log talking to God, not realizing I was really talking to him. I said, God, if you please get me out of this situation, I promise you I'll do anything. I'll do anything. Please don't let me get locked up. So the helicopter light was there, for a long time. I heard the dogs, the chains, the walkie-talkies. They was like,
Now, the contrast here, many people get their lives destroyed at the moment of pressure and trials. Now, when as a kid he prayed with the mindset of a kid, he prayed to God that God should let the grandmother live, being the closest person around him, and that prayer seemed unanswered. Now, he told his cousin that he hated God and wouldn't want to have anything to do with God. Unfortunately, there was nobody around to guide him through the path that the grandmother had been guiding him through. Now, but see, the seed that the woman planted in him was still there. In spite of the fact that he went on a full scale, criminal lifestyle, yet at a point when the hands of law was about to, catch him, he remembered the God that he dished as a kid. Now let's keep watching and see how God answered that prayer.
Right next to me. After a while, the walkie-talkies faded away, the dogs faded away, the helicopter light cut off, helicopter faded away. I was so scared that I think I took like a 3-hour nap underneath that log with bugs and everything just crawling all over me. I didn't care. I took like a 3-hour nap underneath that log when I felt safe and everything, was clear. I moved the log and I walked like all the way around the chaos that I just left from. And I will say I had I'm gonna tell you this part of the story. It's kind of funny. I had a duffel bag, drugs and money, a gun, and I was walking down the street from the chaos that I just came from, and it was 2 cop cars at the bottom of the hill, and they sped up towards me because it's 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning. But mind you, I had the sweatsuit that I had on. I took off, to hide from what I had on, and I had on like some small shorts and a white t-shirt, and it was cold outside, and I'm walking down the street with these small shorts and a white t-shirt on with a duffel bag with drugs, money, and a gun. And the police cut the lights on and started to speed up towards me. I couldn't run nowhere. And my brother, he a cool guy. I love that dude. He a fast thinker. And I tied the side of my shirt up and pretended to switch down the street. And they pulled up on me and cut the lights on and thought I was gay, laughed at me, and kept on going. And I ran home and changed my stuff up. Then I met up with my friends, and it was like, man, I don't know how you got away from that, boy. Somebody was looking out for you. And I was like, yeah, somebody was looking out for me. So, I told them what happened, and it was like, whoa, that was intense. That was intense. So the following day, we were all walking up the street, and the police came out of nowhere, and everybody took off running except for me and another guy. And I was like, you can search me. I don't have nothing on me. Mind you, I just got through smoking some marijuana, and I had a bag of weed in my small pocket that I forgot about. And when I put my hands on the car, the cop was like, what is this? I was like, oh, I forgot about that. He locked me up. So I got locked up for a bag of weed. And when I was in the jail, I was in the cell. They transferred me to like 3 different cells. And each cell that I was in, it was always some old guy there that was talking to me about God. And, I was like, I don't want to hear about that right now, man. I got to get my life together before I give my life to God. When in reality, if you was able to get your life together, it wouldn't be no need for God. But so the last guy that I was in the cell with, he was like, I was telling him about the streets and the things I was doing. And, he was like, man, I think God's trying to talk to you. And I was like, God ain't talking to me. Last time he talked to somebody was back in the Bible days. He don't talk to nobody no more. He gave me a Bible. I tried to read it, but I'm like, I can't understand this stuff, man. I don't fold it, closed it up, went to sleep in my cell. I had a dream. I had a dream about the block, where I was hustling at. And the dream was vivid. It looked just like the block. We on the block, gambling, smoking weed, selling drugs. It was live. And I was like, I woke up from that dream. I was like, ooh, I had a dream about the block. I missed that. The very next night, I had the exact same dream. I was on the block. It was like me and maybe a few other people that was out. It wasn't as live as it was the first dream. I was like, dream, it was cool, but it wasn't like the first dream, So the third dream, it was nobody out there. The dream looked vivid. It looked more real than reality. It was nobody outside, and it looked dead and spooky, and I didn't like it. It was like God was giving me a recurring dream to let me know this is not what you want, son. And I was like, ooh, I don't want this. So I told my cellie, I said, man, I had a dream about the block. Wasn't too cool. I ain't like that. And, that's when he told me, God is trying to talk to me. He would always try to get me to go to the church in the jail. And I was like, I'm not doing anything else. Let me go check this church out. So it was a guy in the church, and he was talking to us, and he was like, he was a cool guy. I can't remember his name. I wish I was able to remember his name. The room was like a little small room in the unit that I was in that had a glass, guys on the outside, they can kind of see in, but they couldn't really hear anything. He would ask everybody in the room to, use a description of someone in their family that hurt them, use a metaphor or description or whatever. So when he got to me, told him, I said, my uncle. And I said, the description I would use for him is a hollow point bullet. And he was like, why a hollow point bullet? I said, because a bullet don't care who it hurts. And, my uncle, it was some things that he did that, hurt me. And, but I long forgave him. I love him to life. But yeah, I told him a hollow point bullet, and he was like, whoa, he was kind of moved by it. And it was funny in a way because I felt something like, I was like, what is this I'm feeling? The old guy, I said, man, it was pretty cool. That was the first time I went to the jail in the church. It was pretty cool. I could do it again. So, I continued to go. And it was one Sunday we was in the church, and we were singing a song. And the song was, trouble in my mind. That's why I cry sometimes. I can't sing. But we were singing that song, and we were singing that song with so much conviction and passion. I mean, everybody we was clapping, singing, and it was so powerful that the guys on the outside started to get up and come to the window like, yo, y'all singing that. And I felt something. I was like, yeah, I almost started crying. I'm like, I was, when I was younger, I had a baby face. I had a real baby face. You would never thought that I was the type of dude that I was when I was younger. But, I didn't cry, and I felt like crying, but I held it back, but it was feeling good. I was like, what in the world is this I'm feeling? It feel good. So, I think I did like 2 months in the jail for the weed that I got locked up for. Then the guys prayed for me before I left. And, I went back out in the streets. I went right back to what I was doing. And so I'm on the streets and I'm hustling. And I think I really believe with all my heart that I encountered an angel without even knowing. It was I don't know. I couldn't even tell if it was a little old lady or a little old man. It was winter time, and I had on a big Eddie Bauer jacket, and whatever it was, a man or female, was like wrapped in all these rags and just had a bunch of stuff on him. And he was like, Can you get me something to eat? I'm hungry. I was like, yeah, man, come on in here, get you something to eat, man. You know, right? I said, man, get you a bag of chips, get you a drink. I said, oh, get you a sandwich too. Go and get you a sandwich. He got the sandwich, and I paid for it. When I got outside, I gave him $5. I walked off. When I was walking around the corner, it was like right here. I was like, feel good. Feel really good, but I didn't think about it, until years later. Like, that might have been an angel, because we entertain angels unaware, don't even know it. So I guess I can't tell you exactly the moment, or how long ago before the time I was in the woods being chased by the police to my testimony.
During this whole duration, did you think about that moment when you cried out to God while you were covered in the log?
Not at all. It was just another, intense moment because of the type of life I was living. It was the norm for me. Like, people getting shot up. It was the norm for me. Like, it was just another latch under my belt of how I escaped. And it's like, the guys that I kind of grew up with on the streets, it was kind of like Vietnam. I mean, it was like, I have stories for days that, will blow your mind.
So you felt that God definitely spared you all these years leading up to your supernatural encounter.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let me tell you. So it was another night, leading up to my experience. It was another night. My brother, I think it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm out there on the block hustling. My brother pulled up, and he picked me up. And this not my brother, but it's another guy I call my brother. He picked me up, and we was plotting on something. I stayed over his house because I was like, when he brought me back to the block, it was like police cars, the news, the ambulance. I was like, yo, bro, take me back to your spot. I'm not coming out here. So the following day, people were blowing my pager up. I had a pager back then, and they was like, man, you didn't hear what happened? I was like, no, what happened? It was like, man, so and so got shot in the back, and they killed him, and so got his leg shot off. So got shot in the stomach, and he collapsed at the 7-Eleven. And I was like, what? And that same night, my brother had picked me up, but when he brought me back, that's when everything had happened. And I had mixed feelings. I was like, I was angry, I was mad, because had I been out there, I would have been able to protect my friends. And I was kind of, in my mind, like, I'm gonna go out in a gun battle. That's my mindset back then. I'm going out in a gun battle in a blaze. So yeah, after they told me all them people got, one of the guys got, I was like, yo, I kind of was wondering if they were looking for me. And so, moving forward, the block cleared up, and I'm back out there hustling. And it was like, I was sitting with my aunt, the one I was staying with at the moment. She didn't want me in her house, and she had put me out, and I was kind of sleeping in abandoned apartments. And had all these guns, and my cousin would sneak me in the house when my aunt would go to work, and I had a compartment in her closet that I built where I hid my drugs, my money. And so it was one night I was sitting on my aunt, where I was in the apartment, the vacant apartment next to my aunt that I was sleeping in. And I was talking to my girlfriend at the time, and she was telling me about some guys that was plotting to rob me. And I had did some stuff, and I had some money, and I had some drugs. And she was telling me about how they were plotting to rob me, and she overheard them plotting through the vent in her room. Her uncles, well, the house that she lived in was something like a crack house, but not really. But the basement, her uncles would do drugs. And she said she overheard the guys in the basement in the vent. Her room was on the 3rd floor, and they were plotting to rob me. And she knew the type of dude that I was, and she knew I wasn't afraid to do anything. And she was she was afraid to tell me exactly who it was, but I kind of picked up on who it was because I had an encounter with the same guy she was talking about. And the encounter was, yeah, why you ain't tell me about the move, Rink? Why you ain't say nothing to me about it? I was like, it wasn't my move to tell you anything. And and he was like, yeah, you think You think you like that because you got all them? I was like, why are you talking like that to me? So fast forward to when I was talking to my girlfriend and she was explaining to me the guys that were plotting on me. I picked up on who she was talking about. And so she I was mad at her. I was angry at her because I felt like she was trying to protect them. And you're supposed to be on my team, but you protecting them. Why don't you tell me? So I hung up on it, and I'm sitting on the front porch, just like 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was like all these thoughts just came rushing in my mind. I was thinking about the life that I was living and the things that I was doing, because as a younger kid, I was a good kid. And I was always fascinated by people having good conversations with one another. I used to just love to hear people have conversations with one another that were good. It was kind of weird, but I just enjoyed it. And I was sitting on the patio, and I was just thinking about the life I was living. And I had so many court dates. It was like I had so many court dates. I used to put the court dates in order. Okay, I got November, October, December. I had a court date for almost every day, every day of the month, or every month of the year. And so I was thinking about the court dates. I was thinking about the way I was living. I was thinking about these dudes trying to rob me. And these particular dudes were just like me. They wasn't afraid either. And so I was like, man, I just bust out crying. I was boo-hoo crying, like boo-hoo crying, like I got a butt whooping from grandma. And I'm thinking about my life. It was just, I felt like my life was going in a downward spiral. And I thought about the words my aunt said where she was having a conversation with somebody, and I overheard her, and she was like, yeah, he a bum. And I was like, oof, I don't ever want to be a bum. And that's what I felt like I was leading up to, being a bum. And so I was like, all these thoughts were just crashing in on me, and I just started crying, and I was boohoo crying, and not realizing that I was really talking to God again. I said, man, God, I can't take this anymore. Cleanse my soul or something. I can't take it anymore. And I met up with this young lady, and she met me at the park, and when she saw my face, she was like, you was crying? And I was like, I wanted to tell her. I was like, yeah, shorty, I cried all night. I wanted to tell her and explain to her how I was feeling and what I was going through, but I felt like she wouldn't have really understood. So I kept it to myself. So I told her, I said, you know what? I'm gonna get some weed and get a hotel. We could chill. So she was like, okay, cool. She went her way, I went mine. And I had another friend, another homegirl that kind of drove me around the neighborhood, because she had a license and a legit car. She would drive me around the neighborhood to make sales. That whole day, I mean, it was just the most eeriest feeling of, I felt like something was about to happen, but I just couldn't tell how, when, what, or where. It was just a feeling of eeriness, like, oof, I'm about to die. And it was like, I was seeing the guys on the block, and I was saying bye to them. They was like, all right, Rink, man, all right, you be safe, man. All right, you too, dog, be safe. And when I was saying that to them, it felt like this was the last time I'm saying this to these guys, because I'm not going to make it to tomorrow. That's just what it felt like. And so the whole day, just feeling weird. The girl took me to the hotel, and she was like, what are you doing here? And I knew that she liked me. I didn't, want to tell her that I was meeting somebody there. I was like, I'm getting a hotel room. Me and the fellas gonna shoot some dice and smoke some weed. So she was like, okay, well, whenever you're ready to leave, call me and I'll come get you. So, and it was like when she was pulling off, I mean, it was the most perfect timing. When she was pulling off, the other girl was pulling in the cab, and she was arguing with the cab driver. And like, why you arguing with the cab driver? Man, go in the room, man. And I tipped the cab driver. I was like, man, don't worry about it, man. So she went to the room. We in the room, and she took a shower or whatever, and turned this movie on the TV. Rolling weed, and she came out. It wasn't no matches, so she went down to she saw I wasn't getting up to go get any matches, and she was like, smacked her teeth, got up, put her clothes back on, and went down to the lobby and got some matches. I was a butthole. So while she was gone, I started thinking about heaven and hell. I was like, I don't want to think about God right now. I'm about to get my thing off and smoke this weed. So she came back, we were blazing, smoking the weed. And I handed her the weed. When I looked at her, she didn't look the same. And she was fairly pretty, like light skin, green eyes. When I looked into her eyes looked black. I looked at her, I'm like, I gave her the weed. I'm tripping. So I'm watching the movie. I'm like, the hell was that about? I look at her again. I was like, her eyes black. So I'm looking at this movie on TV, and the movie was about an island with nothing but convicts on it. And both of them had, two groups, and both of them had one leader. The one group wanted peace and tranquility and had a leader, one leader. The other group wanted chaos and mayhem, and they had one leader. The group that wanted chaos and mayhem was more numerous than the side that wanted peace. And they were fighting against each other for the supplies. I mean, the ones that had peace and tranquility, they were organized, they grew vegetables, and it had a nice little city, a little fortitude city. The other group was just all over the place, whatever they could find to eat. They would even eat themselves, and so they were fighting against each other. And I'm looking at this movie, like, I'm thinking to myself, like, yo, this movie is like what's going on inside my brain. This is crazy. I'm looking at the movie like, I'm like, watching my thoughts play out in the movie on TV. So, I'm looking at the movie, and I'm like, I'm tripping. I changed the channel. So she handed me the J back. I hit the J and I passed it to her again. And when I was looking at her, I was just staring at her. And she was like, why are you staring at me like that? And the way she was looking at me like, why are you staring at me? I was like, none. Yeah. But in my mind, it looked like what I saw was, it looked like I could see her soul, and it was crying out for help, but it looked like her soul was lost and dead or something. I don't know, but she didn't look like her. But she looked like her, but it was like I could see her soul was lost and dead. And I was like, I'm bugging. So I handed her Jay. And so I turned on my side, and I was just thinking to myself, I'm thinking to myself, what if this is a test? And I was like, nah, this ain't no test. It was like, your thoughts aren't really your thoughts. They come from a source, and it's two sources that it's coming from. And I'm thinking to myself, nah, this ain't no test. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna say this a test. I don't want to smoke no more weed. I don't want to have sex with this girl. I don't want to do nothing bad. I'm done. And as soon as I had that thought, I had a vision of an ocean of fire, and millions of people were in it screaming. Thinking that it was just my imagination, I kind of laughed it off and thought to myself, I'm glad I ain't going there. My heart started to race fast. Like, my heart was beating like boogity, 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 boogity. I was like, whoa. I sat up. I was like, oh, my heart. And I told the girl, I was like, yo, feel my heart. She was like, oh my God, why your heart beating so fast? I was like, oh no, Joe. So it was like, I sat up. I was like, yo, why my heart beating so fast? I started getting scared. And so like, it was like the night before, when I sitting on the balcony crying out to God, all those emotions dropped right back on me. And I was like, all those feelings and emotion just out of nowhere just dropped on me. And I was like, I started crying. I don't want to come back. I won't do it anymore. At the moment, I didn't know why I was saying that. I don't want to come back. I won't do it anymore. And I fell to the floor. And it was like, well, let me go back a little bit. When I was sitting on the edge of the bed and my heart was racing, it was like at that moment, every single thing that was happening in front of my face, I saw before, like deja vu on steroids. Like, it was like everything, every movement, every tear, everything that was happening in the air. It was like it was deja vu, like intense. And it was like the deja vu was like I was with God in the beginning when he put everything in order. Now I'm just acting it out. And he gave me the privilege and honor of acting this part out now that I'm crucified with Christ. And it was like I felt my body dropping through the floor, like in slow motion. It just felt like my body was dropping through the floor, and God's hand was huge. And he caught me and pushed me back up in my body. And I was, oh man, I'm feeling it. Okay, so I was like, I ain't gonna do it no more. I don't want to come back. Like, crying and screaming. I ain't gonna do it no more. I don't want to come back. My tongue and my mouth started to do its own thing. Like, all I was providing was the air, and it was like my tongue and my mouth started flipping by itself. I was like, I don't want to come back. My mouth started flipping, and I felt like a piece of clay being remolded by the sure enough hand of God. And a breath of fresh air was breathed in my nostrils and in my mouth at the same time, like the spirit of Jesus, like, came inside me, and I felt like, oh man, I feel like the spirit of Jesus was breathed, like God breathed the spirit of Jesus in me. And I just felt like I came alive, but I'm on the floor speaking in this language. And I felt like somebody was washing me, like my head, my arms, my back, my legs, my everything, like just scrubbing me. And I felt like, oof. I felt like my relatives was around. I didn't see anybody. If I felt like my relative was around, my grandmother, my Uncle Joe, I just felt their presence and they were cheering me on. And I was speaking in this language, and it was like, I mean, so many things came to my mind, like God did this just for me.
All right. I think I'll be stopping the testimony there. Thank you if you are still out there. Now, the question I will have you to answer, this question I've been asking it, then I want you to give your answer in the comment section. Thank God, God followed him up. God followed his life up. Maybe the prayers of his grandmother, has been the reason why God had decided I will follow this one up, irrespective of the fact that he prayed several times when he was in trouble and God will come through for him, yet he wouldn't, fulfill the promises he made to God, that landed him in prison. Now, I want to ask, what would have happened to him if probably he had engaged that girl in sexual activities, and eventually he probably had that heart attack and died literally in that place? Now, what do you think would have happened? Let us discuss it in the comment section. Do you think that maybe if up until that time he had been a Christian, up until that time he was a Christian, and somehow, so one or two things happened and he decided to enjoy himself in that way and eventually got into it, and in the process many people have gone that way. I know some persons also that was killed on top of a woman just like that, but that is not what we're discussing. Now, if a thing like that happened, what do you think would happen to his soul? Would he be escorted by the angels to heaven or by demons to hell? Let's just talk about it. Let's discuss it in the comment section. Give me your opinion in that place. Of course, if you have been a regular viewer or this channel, you know where I stand on that, but this time around, I'd like you to tell me what you think on that. All right? Tell me what you think. That had it been, even without him engaging in that sexual activities with the girl already, but there was an intention there already, and he had that heart attack and probably literally dies, what do you think would happen to him? And bear in mind that so many people have gone to that path and they were opportune to come back. There are so many who have been there and they couldn't return. So tell us what you think about this if there was no intervention such as him coming back to life. Now, again, one of the problems I have is that a lot of these people who have these genuine encounters, now when they come out and they tell their stories, the next thing that happens is that the people begin to treat them like celebrities. The processes of discipleship will just be looked away from. Nobody disciples them, and so at the end of the day their lives is not neither here nor there. I don't know, but that is what we have always seen. So let's know what you think about this. Remember my question in the comment section. Thank you very much and God bless you. See you in the next video. The only thing I want to tell you, please, brothers and sisters, is that heaven and hell is real. Hell originally was made for Satan, but anybody who loves his activities actually would definitely follow him there. And heaven is a place of joy, the home of God. And Jesus promised that he will come back to take us to wherever he is. There also his servants will be, whether in the New Jerusalem when he will establish his kingdom here for 1,000 years, and when eventually the kingdom of God will be established and God's ideal world would be, established. Now, wherever the Lord is, there he would want his servants to be. Okay, so, and we've got to love the Lord just as he commands and pray for grace to keep us qualified. Thank you very much and God bless you. Till I come your way in the next video. Till then, from me to you, shalom.